everyone, I'm Carl Bierock. Welcome back to the Jaguar Football Podcast. And with us today is the head coach of Seckman Football, Dr. Nicholas Bear. Coach Bear, so good to see you. I know the hallways around Seckman are going to get a little bit lonelier here in the next few weeks as school gets out, but the program, that's really when it gets going.
Yeah, things are turning and a lot of things happening as we get ready to head into the summer and then blink and it's going to be week one.
I know a lot of people are looking forward to it. And certainly as new players come into the program, you've been doing a lot of work, especially with the underclassmen on what to expect as a freshman. What are their expectations of, just being on the team and how's that going?
Yeah. Last week we started our freshman introduction to weight training. First real opportunity for incoming freshmen, football players to kind of start lifting weights and being a part of our program. Right now we've got a solid group. It's hovering right around between 50 and 55 kids from Seckman and Antonia. And, we've been in the weight room 2 days, and it's really just about learning the basics and really starting to set the expectation for the standard and how we'll operate with them the next 3 years or 3.5, 4 years. So it's kind of funny, Carl. I forget how small they start out.
I look at them
incoming freshmen.
I'm with you. I don't think I was ever that young. I just remember just being old and like I am now.
Yeah, it never feels that way, right?
Yeah, it certainly does. So I imagine, them being picked up at school, coming off the bus, walking into the weight room for the first time, may be a little intimidating for them. What do you and your staff do to put them at ease?
Well, I acknowledge that. Walking into the weight room for the first time, it's very intimidating. Getting under a barbell that first time, feeling the weight on your back. Maybe it's the first time you're holding over your chest. It's just I keep reassuring them. I keep letting them know, hey, this is new. This is different. What you're feeling is normal, right? And then, first time squatting, you get under the barbell, your knees are shaking and you're quaking, right? That first time you get under that bench press and you're bringing that bar down, okay, your body just isn't ready. And we're working on building up that core strength, but always a month or 2 months, sometimes into the lifts, those shakes, they go away. You build up that core strength. The soreness, I forgot to warn them about how sore they were going to be the first day that we benched. But I didn't get any phone calls or emails, so that's a good thing. But that soreness, it's going to go away. And right now when I'm talking about lifts or how to set up a rack, it seems new and foreign and weird. But in a month, they're going to be like a NASCAR pit crew, getting weights on and off, shifting weights, moving on to the next lift. And it's always fun to watch. Sometimes, I'm not going to lie, it could be a little exhausting. In my position, trying to train up a new group, get them going, get them believing in what we do. But in the same breath, it's a lot of fun, because these guys, they're new, they're very impressionable, they're eager to learn and listen and do well. And, it's definitely certainly refreshing sometimes to feel that way and get a new group going. But, it's a lot of fun too, because they'll be lifting weights and, I'll have some older guys come through and, say, oh, hey, do you remember your first day, in the weight room? And they'll just laugh. They'll say, yeah, coach, I had no idea what I was doing, what I was getting into. We was pretty funny. We worked out pretty good. Carson Schulte, a senior to be, his brother is actually going to be an incoming freshman as well. And we were doing some chin-ups at the end of our lift. And, I got a couple big boys in there, 250, 300-pound dudes. And I just got done explaining it. I said, look, right now you can't do a pull-up or a chin-up. We're going to use the bands. But I said, when you leave here, I guarantee you're going to be able to do 1, 2, 3 chin-ups. And just as I said that, Carson Schulte walks in and he's pushing 250 pounds. He's one of the strongest guys on the team. He jumps up on the chin-up bar and just he had a book bag on too, so probably an extra 20 pounds, repping out 3 or 4 chin-ups. And I can just see all those, those boys, oh, maybe that guy's not lying. So, it was actually kind of perfect. And really, honestly, too, it's kind of one of those things where it helps me see the growth of our athletes too. I look at our boys that are freshmen now, and they've officially been lifting weights for a year, and I look at them and I compare them to our incoming guys right now. I'm like, whoa, you guys have kind of grown up a little bit. You've developed. Look at your chest, look at your shoulders. Even the guys that might not be my hardest workers, and I'm still trying to pull along, they're still going out this way, and their shoulders are going this way. So, it's a lot of fun. Getting the new group going, and I'm excited. It's a good group of kids, and certainly some work to be done. Certainly some attitudes to be adjusted, and I guess that's why I get paid the big bucks, right, Carl?
I think that we both with this podcast, right? No, it's exciting because I think back to when, I was that age and just going into a new program, new school, there's a lot to take in. And it's nice that, and I think you talked about on one of the prior podcasts, that they have this built-in support system with not only the folks going in with them, their classmates, but the leadership of the team, the upperclassmen. So, for parents out there, they're just not thrown to the wolves. There's a regiment, and they have a lot of support behind them.
Yeah, I mean that's honestly, and we talked about all the time. We're not rebuilding anything. We're reloading around here, and that comes from the boys. Certainly, 5-6 years ago, I was steering the ship. I was rowing the boat. I was cleaning the toilets. I was cooking the food. Now I'm pretty much just standing behind the wheel, and the boys are rowing, and whatever kind of metaphor you might take out of that, but they got plenty to watch and see, and this is how we get it done. Oh, I heard coach say that. Well, now I'm watching the guys that are playing, the guys that are starting, the guys that are at the top of that list. That's what they do. Oh yeah, I'm going to be doing that. And that's just kind of what's allowed us to keep this thing, in kind of that recycle motion and that reload. I don't have to rebrand or rebuild, what we're doing every year. Now, if we ever get away from that standard, or I have a couple groups that I can't get to buy in, then maybe I'll have to. But that's not this year. So I'm excited to see that. And yeah, parents should know plenty for their boys to look around and see. And, it's kind of weird. This is always an interesting time of year because, we're welcoming an entire brand new group, and this week, tomorrow, actually, seniors last day. So it's like one group comes in, and then that next group, those seniors that we love this year, had a great time with, they got one more day of school and they're gone. And it's a weird feeling, for me, it's just a lot of emotions back and forth, as far as seeing these guys leave again, it's just part of the profession, as much as I would love to run it back again with Isaac Perry and Brady Ambrose and Joey Bierrock and Ethan Shamel and Tyler Jackson and Isaac Johnson and Lon Newman, all these guys, it's just not a reality. And, they got to leave. And it's kind of one of those things where I know they're moving on to bigger and better things. And, I'm happy for them. And, in the same breath, though, it's kind of tough because, you work with these guys for 4 years, pretty highly emotional state in the game of football. You watch them pretty much grow up from little boys as incoming freshmen on the first day to grown men, with a plan for their life when they leave here. And you hope football had something to do with that. And, I have something to do with football. So maybe, I hope, maybe they picked up a couple things from me on the way out the door, and some of them, I'll never see again, which is, it is what it is. I'm just at this point become a memory, right? I just was a memory of the football coach in high school. Some I'll see around town. Some I'll kind of keep in touch with over text message. But my biggest thing is I hope all the boys know they're always welcome back. Whatever they need, it doesn't matter how big, how small. I'm available to them. They know where my office is. And I ain't going anywhere for another 16 years. And, a couple of them will swing by and say goodbye tomorrow. Some of them won't. It's just kind of one of those things. I know they all mean it. Even if they don't, they're just kids and they don't know how to express it. So, like I said, it's kind of out with the old, in with the new, recycled thing. And it's just always something I'm trying to process. And, certainly football coaches are human at some point, aren't they? So.
No doubt. I mean, I go back and I think about, I was on an 8th grade basketball team, and I remember the coach giving us a little speech at halftime. And to this day, I kind of just never forget it, and remember just looking around who was sitting next to me. It's great experience. And, selfishly as a parent who has a senior that's graduating, I asked like, hey, do you feel like being a super senior? And he politely
Right.
declined. He's going on with his own thing, but um, I'm excited for these freshmen because
Hmm.
I got to see it firsthand, just the progression of how much they improved, and just like I said, I'm just excited for them. So my question is,
Yeah.
how does it look as far as the numbers go with both middle schools feeding now into the program? How is the freshman team stacking up maybe to years past?
Yeah, well, I think, pretty much every year we're going to be hovering right around that 50 to 55 number when it comes to incoming freshmen. Last year was a little bigger, was 60. Um, and it's just kind of one of those things with our youth program. I really like to have about 30 to 35, maybe 40 kids, at each grade level. And then, by the time they come up, I do a little recruiting. I try to get another 10 to 15 guys out of the lunchroom. And that's a really good base. Now, when we start with 50, 55 kids, are we going to graduate 55 seniors? Probably not. I'm going to do everything I can, provide all the opportunity that I can for them to do that. But then by the time it gets to senior year, we kind of shave it down. It comes down to about 30, 35 guys. Now you have a program. Now you got 30, 18-year-old boys, grown men on your team to go out there and play the game of football. So that's really kind of how we try to keep the cycle moving, when you bring it to a numbers game.
Yeah, and before they could play, parents have to register their kids, and
Mm-hmm.
we have a new way of doing it this year. And coach, you're going to give us a live demo on how to walk through.
Yeah, so we talked a lot about how the Jaguar Football Booster Club taking over and kind of overseeing youth football in our area, along with also continuing to support the high school. And with that, we knew we kind of need to upgrade, like a lot of things, our website and our process for tracking money, being responsible with that money, having budgets, having ledgers, and really all around accountability. And that's what this website has allowed us to do. So maybe you've been there, maybe not, maybe you haven't. The link's out there. It's on our Facebook page as well. Jaguar Football Booster Club. It's also, you can get there through Junior Jaguars as well. You see our landing page here. Nice little picture here of our 4 straight conference championship team. And then just a couple different options and things to click around on. Right now, we've got 3 live registrations for our youth program. So, plenty of different ways to find that, through the registration button. You see, we got our fall contact league, our Seckman youth football camp, and our fall K2 flag football league. 3 opportunities there for youth in our community to play the game of football at the click of a button.
All good. And there's also a feature on there that folks could donate. They have, like, my
Yeah.
situation. I don't have any skin in the game for this coming year, but folks can make a donation through the website.
Yeah, so we've always made collections through our Jaguar Football Booster Club for our high school athletes, giving people the opportunity to support what we do financially. And I feel like we've really this year kind of streamlined that process a little bit. You used to have to fill out a form, and then you'd have to go pay this way or that way. We still have the opportunity to support us through cash or check, okay? But now a little bit easier. Support our organization on the homepage. All right. And you're able to come in here and donate whatever amount you'd like to support Seckman football. So that's made it a great, easy way. And this website's something I'm really excited about. Really glad our club could provide this to the community to kind of, like I said, once again, providing accountability, to all the money, honestly, that's flying around.
Yeah, and also it's good to know for parents that the Booster Club is a registered 501c3. And
Mm-hmm.
so many employers have either matching gifts or other programs that you could help support this program. So it may be worthwhile parents looking into it. Check on your intranet site if your company has one. There could be a matching gift program that could truly help the program succeed even more.
Yeah, no, we are the Booster Club is nonprofit, filed through the state of Missouri and the federal government. And if we can provide any necessary paperwork to your employers, if they're interested in helping support us, for sure.
All right. Well, you saw the registration. We'll have a link to it on this description of the podcast. And of course, it's up on our Facebook page as well. And, here we go. The off season, the registration for junior camps. And I imagine the high school level is going to go camping here in a little bit. Just thought you could update the Jaguar Nation on what's going on as far as off season updates.
Yeah, we're still rolling every day here in the weight room, and you almost kind of have, sometimes getting through January, getting through February, the boys don't really have that far-sightedness as us adults have, but now you can kind of really start seeing that light at the end of the tunnel, right? The boys can really start seeing, oh, hey, I'm getting ready to put the baseball bat down, or oh, hey, it's time to put the volleyball away, or to kind of put the wrestling shoes away, and we're getting ready to start really focusing on and narrowing in on football. So, we just continue to work and continue to get it done. We had our parent meeting 3 weeks ago. Great opportunity to get in front of some new parents. And then obviously a lot of familiar faces there as well to really kind of set the expectation and kind of shoot us off into this season and what we need to do. In the class the next couple days, I've got our off-season schedule. So I've got that summer schedule. I'm going over it with the boys and a few of the adjustments that we've had to make this year, and what it's going to look like. And then, I found that when you can put something in front of their faces and kind of really show them, hey, this is the amount of time you have. This is the work that needs to be done. Hey, this is Parkway West is coming here on this date. We better be ready. It kind of helps them focus in a little bit. So, a couple kind of different changes to our off-season schedule this year. Normally, we would do the Windsor 7-on-7 League with other Jefferson County schools, but either we didn't get invited or it got folded this year. I'm thinking it's the second. It's the second option. And so they're not doing that this year, which is fine. So what we've elected to do, I'm Coach Sacharski and I from Hillsboro. We've kind of, obviously through the profession talked a lot and know we have very similar programs. Both Jefferson County schools, and we've both been having some decent success lately, and our programs really mesh well. So we've decided that, we're going to kind of work together a little bit this summer. So instead of going to Windsor and facing multiple teams, Hillsboro is going to come up here one night, and we'll kind of do a joint practice style with them and get some 7-on-7 work. And then another night we'll go down to Hillsboro. So we're still getting our work in against a different team. I'm actually kind of excited because we could slow it down a little bit, do a little bit more teaching in the summertime than we normally have been able to do. You're really going on the fly when you're out there and the clock's running and teams are going. So I'm excited to get to work with Hillsboro on that this year. And, when it comes to 7-on-7 in the past, we've also done the Fort Zumwalt East 7-on-7 tournament. There's about 25, 30 schools that would go. They're not doing that this year either. That kind of folded. So I'm kind of thinking everybody's come back to their sanity here. As far as some of this stuff is concerned, I know I never just do things to do things, but I'm not going to lie. The 7-on-7 tournament, I was just doing it to do it. Keep our boys busy, right? Keep them excited. I don't think we ever actually won a game at the Fort Zumwalt 7-on-7 tournament, maybe one or two in the 3 years that we were there. Coaches sure have some good stories. We had some good times, some good laughs, and the boys certainly got sunburnt. But that's just something that they're not offering this year, so we're also not doing that. So we're really trying to find time to focus on ourselves. And, for us, it's our Tuesdays. Our Tuesday is our big day. That's when we get our field work in after we lift. That's where we're working our routes. And then really, we only have so many days we can have contact with the boys. I've talked to all the receivers. I've talked to all the running backs. I've talked to all the quarterbacks. I know Jaguar Land wants to see the ball in the air. It comes down to our boys and the work that they're willing to put in and the extra time when the coaches aren't there. When we roll out there against Jackson and you see that receiver going, boom, and that quarterback's just putting it in the bucket every time, never misses. That's because they were throwing more than once a week in the summer, right? Those guys, I'm not trying to accuse anybody of anything, but they're probably throwing in January, February, March, April, May. Not accusing anybody of anything. But that kind of timing takes a lot of time, right? So, hey, we want to get close to that. We want to be able to We've talked about it before, the timing that it takes for that deep ball, compared to those shorter routes where we kind of had to adjust to halfway through the season this year. Have 10 to 15 passing attempts a game. That's going to come down to the work our boys are putting in and the timing. So, if we're not out there together on a Tuesday, or we are out there together on a Tuesday, they better pick up another day or two together, right? I can't be here. Coaches can't be there. The boys can play whenever they want. So it really kind of falls to them, and we'll kind of see how it goes from there.
Yeah, because you bring up a good point. You have so many kids. I know last year the number was around 180. You may eclipse it even this year. And you talked about it on a couple of different podcasts that the goal is to work like the freshmen to figure out what it's like to take care of business as a Seckman Jaguar. And then they progress, they get stronger, faster, they get some reps on JV. And the whole goal then is to get to Friday. There was an interesting clip I want to play for you, Coach, and get your take. Coach Freeman from Windsor was on one of our streaming partners, had a podcast, and was talking about there's some teams out there that struggle to really fill more than two teams. So I'm going to play this clip and then get your reaction on the other side.
A meaningful piece to be able to promote freshmen with freshmen and junior varsity players with junior varsity players, where you get yourself into that conundrum where, okay, well, if we're just playing a 9 and 10th grade team, what do we do with the juniors that aren't playing varsity? Or if we're just playing a JV team, what do we do with the freshmen that aren't getting reps at the JV level?
Yeah, sounds like it's all about just preparing for the next level. And you have to love live on tape. I hit the wrong button, but we got the soundbite played, and would love to hear your feedback on that.
Yeah, first off, love to see a couple Jefferson County coaches getting together, talking about football and really trying to spread the word. And what's that called? Beyond the goalposts?
Correct, Beyond the Goalposts.
Hey, if you're hungry for a little bit more content on high school football in our area, make sure we check that out. They had Coach Tinker on there, as well as Coach Judd Nager from Valley. So, a lot of different perspectives. And, hopefully I'll get on there one day and share some of the things that we do here. But yeah, first off, love to see it, and glad Coach Freeman at Windsor previously spent some time at Fox and Hillsboro. So, he knows a lot about the area, a lot of coaches. Glad to see him kind of trying to spread the good word there. I've talked about it before. We are very blessed in our current time to be able to do the things that we're doing with the numbers that we have. Right now, we're sitting right at, I looked at the list today, every name, about 187, potential Seckman football players. That's going to fluctuate. We'll go up. There's a couple guys that, they swing by my office. Okay, coach, I want to play football. Sure, come on in. Here's the some of those guys will pan out. There's a couple guys so it's going to fluctuate. But I think we'll always fall right around that 180 mark, 170, 180, potentially 190, when things are buzzing. So I've been on both sides of it. I coached JV football here for, a handful of years, and there were times when we'd have 11 guys on the football field. You turn around, and there were 5 guys behind you. You look for another lineman. You didn't have no more linemen on a Monday night. So now you're running into some safety concerns. So, and really, I've even faced this issue as a head coach. My first year as head coach, way back when, 2019, we had a really small freshman class the year before. And I think my first year, we had 9 sophomores. I was really faced with the decision. It's like, okay, this is when Cole Rubel and those guys were all freshmen. Certainly a couple of those guys could have held their own on the JV, right? So I was kind of forced with this decision. Okay, do I split the freshman class just to say I'm having a JV team, and I have a JV team that's not very competitive? They kind of get their butts kicked. We don't gain a lot of excitement. Oh, by the way, the 30 guys that I left on the freshman team without their 10 to 15 best players, they're getting their teeth kicked in, and they're not having a lot of fun either. It's one of those things where that year, and some people weren't very happy about it, I had to cancel our JV season. And those 9 sophomores, we just moved up to varsity, and some of them played, and really some of them didn't. So, it's kind of, it's tough. And there's a lot of schools, on there. I think they were talking to Valley and Windsor. Obviously, schools are a little smaller than us. So their perspective on that subject is going to be a little different. Fox, listening further into the podcast, it sounds like they're always hovering around 90 to 80 players in their program. So, yeah, that could be really tough to spread it out over 3 teams. It's one of those things. We might have a bunch of defensive backs, but how many quarterbacks can you really have in your program? If one quarterback goes down, it's hard to carry 2 on the freshman, 2 on the JV, and then guys that are also ready for varsity. So, a lot of schools are faced with the decision. Are we better off, keeping it to 2 teams, running a 9-10 team and just a varsity, or maybe a freshman and varsity only, or, can we spread it out? And, I made that decision my first year. Thankfully, since then, we've had 3 teams. Heck, that one year, 4 years ago, we had 2 JV teams. That's where we kind of ran into some problems, right? Yeah, I had enough linemen, I had enough DBs, but I didn't have enough running backs and quarterbacks, right? And those guys were taking a beating. So, since we have those numbers, it's really allowed us, and we've talked about that cycle, that reload every year. Freshman year, 75% of the teams played football before, 25% of them haven't, but it's built for all of them. And, we guarantee playing time to 44 players, okay? Not a lot of teams are getting 44 players on a freshman football field, and they actually know what to do, and they're engaged. And obviously when our guys have roles on the team, they're more engaged. They're more willing to continue to lift weights and be a part of what we're doing. One thing I always kind of really hang my head on is our retention rate from freshman to sophomore year. We're always hovering right around that 90 to 95, percent. And then we roll those guys up into the JV. Now, JV gets a little bit different. I could still only guarantee playing time to 44 people. And when I'm talking 44 people, we're talking first team offense, first team defense, second team offense, second team defense. And I say 44, but a lot of times that fluctuates too because, you have different receivers, you have different running backs. So we're getting more on the field than that. On any given Monday night, we're getting 100 guys on the field. And JV is and that's kind of where I feel like I need to do a better job communicating what our JV means. Freshman year, hey, look, that's for everybody. We're trying to get everybody on the field. When it comes to JV, now we're trying to get guys on the field that can become varsity athletes. Are they I've seen them in the weight room for a year and a half, 2 years. Do they have what it takes to be varsity football players? Because now it's not just freshmen anymore. JV is a sophomore, junior team. So if you're a junior and you're not starting on the varsity, you have an opportunity to now play on the JV. And last year was the first time we kind of really developed this rotating structure where I think I had 11 juniors that played every game. And then I had 22 more juniors. I split them into 2 groups, and half of them played one game, half the schedule, the other half played the other half. So some guys played 5 JV games, some guys played 10. And then obviously the sophomores dressed for them all. So it's kind of one of those where a few sophomores kind of got lost in the shuffle. But, it's one of those things. I got to get the juniors on the field, continue to work and develop too. And I had some let me look. I had some numbers at my parent meeting because everybody knows I'm a numbers guy, former math teacher. And, obviously they're all kids, and they're all humans. But, I do have to kind of sometimes play a numbers game. And can I put these numbers here? And if I throw enough numbers at things, will it work? Let's see. Last year, we dressed out 32 players on the JV, juniors on the JV. Okay. 23 of those guys are returning for senior year. Played JV last year. So 23 of those guys got an extra year in the weight room. And realistically, of those 23, 18 of them have a chance of starting for us this year, having a realistic contributing role on the varsity, 18 of those 23. So when I look at that, that tells me, hey, that was a worthwhile venture, because, hey, if those guys aren't playing any varsity and I'm not dressing them on the JV, how many of those juniors quit, right? Certainly more than 9 of them, right? So that's really one way, I'm trying to keep guys motivated, keep them interested, because I know putting an 18-year-old human out on the field, pretty much grown man compared to a 16-year-old on a Friday night, that's a big difference. So, it's just kind of, we are certainly faced with other different issues than other teams in our area have, and it's a good thing. And, there's definitely a method behind the madness and thought, and it's exciting.
Yeah, and we'll dig into that. We dug into it a little bit last year, and for the newer parents to the program and freshmen, we'll talk about the platooning, especially on the freshman side. We'll get into that, but no, it's just exciting that you have that retention rate. That's huge. So you're not starting from scratch, and they continue to build and progress and make it to where they can contribute on a Friday. I mean, that's all they can ask for, is that opportunity.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's kind of one of those things where too, we don't have to rush any players. If we have a good sophomore, instead of throwing them out there on the varsity where, realistically we've had sophomores in the last couple of years that could have played against would have started for any team on our schedule. But we didn't have to rush them. We had juniors and seniors that still got the job done. So now, hey, that guy that was a stud sophomore, he didn't get injured. He continued to lift. He continued to work. Now he's hungry. He knows it's his turn going into junior, senior year. That's actually allowed us to get more out of some of our better players as well, as we haven't had to rush anybody.
No,
minus the quarterback last year, we had to rush
healthy.
him.
Yeah, it's
185 guys on the team and one guy that could throw a football. So, sometimes you got to do what you got to do. But
well, we know the date coming up in August of the cornhole tournament. Prior to that is the blue and gold game. So who knows what we're going to see out there? We'll have more information on that. But do want to just remind everybody, please like and subscribe to this podcast and our Facebook page. A lot of great information about registration, the blue gold game, the cornhole tournament, up-to-date information. So we appreciate everybody coming in and hanging out with us and following our page. And Coach, this time seems to always flow by so quickly. Wanted to give you the floor and take us out as we start the month of May here and get ready for June and July.
Yeah, hey, we're obviously I said here at Seckman High School, we're here in the spring, continue to prepare for the fall. We've got guys that have gone to school here or now continue to play college football. They all just got done with spring ball, and just kind of want to highlight a few of the former Jaguars that are going out and really spreading the good word and kind of showing what we're about at other programs. Our three boys down at SEMO, Anthony Westervelt, Cole Rubel, Zach Hudson, all participated in the SEMO spring game down there. Happy to report all three boys are now on scholarship. So, it's pretty awesome for them. Anthony and Zach both went down there as walk-ons, and that's no joke. And, for them to be able to work and grind and keep their head down for 2 years to finally be rewarded going into the third year there as redshirt sophomores, it's exciting to see. So, all three of those guys have opportunities to be contributors for the SEMO Redhawks this year. And, we got our guys at Missouri Baptist and Tommy Gabar and Trent Enlow both participate in the spring game as well for Division III Missouri Baptist. Caden Lappy, he's now at a junior college out in Kansas City. So he's kind of getting that JUCO experience, which is certainly a little different. So excited for him in that respect. And Caleb Niebuhr, I believe he's going into his senior year out at Lincoln College. He was a linebacker for us. I think they've got him at fullback linebacker type. That's a Division II school. And then, a few folks here might recognize Max Sell, was a 3-year starting lineman for us. He was at Upper Iowa for a little bit. He's down at Benedictine College now, I believe, out in Kansas City, and excited for that new opportunity for him. So, colleges are wrapping up their spring games, trying to keep tabs on our guys as much as possible and continue to encourage them. And I hope everybody chooses to follow our boys out there.
Now, we always love to hear what the Jags are doing after they leave the hallways of Seckman. So good to see that they're contributing. And of course, the SEMO boys, they were up here at Lindenwood last fall. I guess we'll have to try to catch them at home one of these days. But
yeah,
Coach,
I'm
always
going to hopefully
appreciate
catch
your
them when
time.
it's not pouring down raining the whole game.
Oh.
I'm about sick of this rain, Carl, too, by the way.
Yeah, you know
My
what?
goodness.
I'd rather have you get it over with. I know the lawn has never looked so nice, and I imagine the practice
Right.
field looks tremendous. But we'll maybe be begging for it come July and August.
Yeah, no, I got the aerator. I got the aerator rented for Wednesday, so I'll be out there on my conference hour aerating the practice field, poking some holes, planting some seed, and the fertilizer did the practice field pretty good, but there's some bare spots, so we'll have it ready by the time the season starts.
Sounds good, Coach, and always great catching up with you. And we will catch you on the next one.
Thanks, Carl.
Thank you.